If Tom Pace, me, can fly, anybody can fly. If you are willing to take the action. Do you have a dream list? I think everybody should have a dream list. Some people call them a goal list, G-O-A-L list. Goal list. I have a friend of mine who calls it a go list, but I'm going to talk about a dream list. A dream list is things that we want, people that we want to meet, places we want to go, a relationship with our Creator, God. That's what goes on a dream list. What do you got on your dream list? So one of the things I've got on my dream list is I want to become a pilot. There's all kinds of ways to fly. To be able to learn how to fly, to be able to pay for it. Since I've been taking flying lessons, I've met people that put the fuel in the plane, and the reason why they're working at the airport is because they get a huge discount on being able to get their pilot's license. My instructor only has like 300 hours and he wants to be a commercial pilot, so he is charging me $30 an hour to fly me around in a plane, and he gets flying time. We can be creative and figure out ways to pay for things. You don't have to go out and get a loan. There are ways to get things accomplished without borrowing money and going into debt. If I can fly, you can fly. Here's another thing. Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister is one of my heroes, and so is Christopher Columbus. But I know a little bit more about Roger Bannister because I'm a runner. Roger Bannister was the first man ever in recorded history to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. And he trained and he did all kinds of things to make it happen. And he made it under 4 minutes for 1 mile. Now what happened next is what's really incredible, because as soon as Roger Bannister ran a mile in less than 4 minutes, which everybody believed was impossible, over 15 other people did it within 18 months. You want to learn how to fly? If I can do it, you can do it. And one of the reasons I wanted to make this video is because I thought about quitting. But if I'm making a video about getting my pilot's license, now I've upped the ante because I don't want to let you guys down. I am committed to getting my pilot's license now because I'm making this video. Here's some situations. One, there's an airport just down the street. It's called Wiley Post. It's about 3 miles away from my office. I can take flying lessons, which I found out takes about 55 hours in order to get my private pilot's license. So I can fly my own plane, or I can rent planes, and I can have another part of my life that I don't have right now. Just think, 250 years ago, the richest man in the world could not do what I'm getting ready to do. And that's fly an airplane. I've been taking flying lessons for the last month and a half, and I've had some ups, some excitement, and I've had some downs. I've had some boredom. I've thought about quitting, but I'm only like 6 hours into it so far, and so far it's very complicated. There's a ton of stuff to do. Nothing is automated in my mind. I have to consciously think of everything. So whenever we start to learn something, it's difficult. So I went out like 2 months ago. I met an instructor, nice guy. I can afford it. They let me pay it out. I don't have to pay it all at once. I'm not financing it, but a friend of mine did it, and he paid $10,000 up front, and he never got his license. So I just want to pay as I go. And it runs about $300 to $600 a week, depending on how many hours I fly and how many hours I spend with the instructor. So Wiley Post Airport, 3 miles away from my office. I go over there, try to go over there once or twice a week. Sometimes I miss. Lately I've been missing more than I've been going because I also go to the vacation house, plus running 3 businesses and a nonprofit for the Western Club Foundation. So I'm really pretty busy. But have you ever thought about becoming a pilot? Have you ever thought about learning how to fly? Have you ever thought about skydiving? Have you ever thought about jumping out of a perfectly good airplane with a parachute? Have you ever thought about going snow skiing? Have you ever thought about going to New York City? Now, if you live in New York City, that's not a big deal. But if you live in New York City, have you ever thought about coming to Oklahoma City? So a dream list are things that we want to have in our life. Now, like I said, there's a lot of complications to learn how to fly. And the very first thing I have to do to learn how to fly is spend time in the office doing some prep work to make sure that the plane will get off the ground. So we have to figure out how much I weigh, how much my passenger, my instructor weighs, how much the fuel weighs, and is the runway long enough for us to be able to take off? So we have this little form that we fill out. The first time I filled it out took 45 minutes. Then I got it down to about 30 minutes, and now I'm down to about 20 minutes. There's some calculation that's involved. There's some things that I forget. I can use a calculator. My goal is to get it down to 10 minutes. That's my goal. Now, once we do the paperwork, and first thing we do is we select a plane out of the bunch of planes that they have. And once we get the paperwork done, now it's time to go to the plane and do a quick inspection. Have you ever noticed that when you're flying on a commercial jet, you'll see the pilot outside of the plane walking around the plane just kind of inspecting it? This is a good idea with your car too. Before you start your car, you should walk around your car to make sure everything looks right, especially if you got people that don't like you. You might find a wire hanging out of your car that you do not want to be there. So you should inspect your vehicle. Are all the tires aired up? And that's one of the things we check on an airplane. Are all 3 tires on this plane, are they in good shape? Is the wing in good shape? Are the rudders in good shape? Are the flaps working? So we do an inspection. We even check to make sure the fuel is not contaminated by taking a sample out of the fuel tanks and looking at it to make sure it's the right color. After we do all this, and after we check all the lights and everything, we go inside the plane and we have another checklist. Checklists are incredibly important. Checklist manifesto. This was written by a surgeon who relies on having a checklist. He wrote this entire book. And the funny thing about this book is when he got done writing and the book was published, he went into surgery and he did not use his checklist. But his head nurse that was assisting him with the surgery said, look, we got to use a checklist. He says, I've done this surgery so many times I don't need to use a checklist. She said, I am not going to do this surgery unless you use your checklist. And he was upset. And he's the doctor, he's the surgeon, he's the kind of like a god in the surgery room. And here's this nurse telling him she's not going to participate unless he uses his checklist. Well, sure enough, he uses the checklist, and he'd overlooked something that he needed to do, and it would have been detrimental to the patient. The nurse saved his life. So it's a pretty good sized book. It's 209 pages plus, but it's well worth reading, especially if you have problems with getting your own checklist done. Now, another book. This is by the author Shad Helmstedler, and this is one of like 15 or 20 books that he's written about self-talk. And he's been studying self-talk since the early 80s. And there's a lot of new research done about how the brain works and how important self-talk is. Check out Shad's books on self-talk. There's also a website that you can go to, but I really recommend both of these books from this series. So I get the opportunity to take off in just a few minutes, and there's a checklist to go through. So John has videoed us taxiing, going out to the runway, and from there, hopefully he'll get a picture of us going into the sky. We're going to go for about an hour flight today, and then we'll be back. So I only am working on 2 hours this trip. I'm going to go again next Wednesday, and I'm going to go for 3 hours. So I'm continuing to stick with it and make it happen. Here's something I've been repeating in my mind more and more, and I wish that you would do the same thing. Here's the phrase: I can do this. I can do this. I can do this, because my mind tells me a lot. You can't do this. And that's just automatic. That's not. But when I control my conscious mind and say to my subconscious mind, I can do this, I can really do it. And you can do way more than what you're doing with your life today. If you just say to yourself, I can do this. If you have written goals, if you have a dream list and you look at it and you say to yourself, I can do this, and you take massive amounts of action, you can accomplish it. So what is it on your dream list you'd like to do that you've been thinking about doing for a while that you haven't done? Take action on it now. Thank you for your phone calls. I really like talking to you guys. Some of you are in small businesses, some of you are realtors, some of you are students. It's a blast to speak with people that are doing something with their life. Don't be a spectator in your life. Be a participant. Take action and help other people to become successful. Remember this, take action, and the more we give, the more we live. Thank you.